कुंज बिहारी जय गोपी जन वल्लभा गिरिवरधारी जय गोपी जन वल्लभा गिरिवरधारी यशोदनन्दन व्रज जनरञ्जन नन्दन व्रज जनरञ्जन यमुनातीरावनचारी वनचारी हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे जय कृष्ण बलराम जय कृष्ण बलराम कृष्ण बलराम जय वृंदावन धाम जय राधे श्याम ललिता विशाख जय राधे श्याम जय गौरनिताय जय गौरनिताय जय जय प्रभुपाद जय जय प्रभुपाद जय विष्णुपाद परमहंस परिव्राजकाचार्य अष्टोत्तर सत श्री श्रीमद् AC भक्तिवेदांत स्वामी श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय। इस्कॉन BBT फाउंडर आचार्य श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय। जय विष्णुपाद परमहंस परिव्राजकाचार्य अष्टोत्तर सत श्री श्रीमद् भक्ति सिद्धांत सरस्वती गोस्वामी महाराज श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय। जय विष्णुपाद श्रील गौर किशोरदास बाबाजी महाराज की जय। जय विष्णुपाद श्रील सच्चिदानंद भक्ति विनोद ठाकुर की जय। जय विष्णुपाद वैष्णव सार्वभौम श्रील जगन्नाथ दास बाबाजी महाराज की जय। जय श्री रूप सनातन भट्ट रघुनाथ श्री जीव गोपाल भट्ट दास रघुनाथ सद गोस्वामी प्रभु की जय। नमाचार्य श्रील हरिदास ठाकुर की जय। प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासदि गौर भक्त वृंद की जय। श्री श्री राधा कृष्ण गोप गोपिका श्याम कुंड राधा कुंड गिरि गोवर्धन की जय। श्री वृंदावन मायपुर धाम की जय। गंगामयी यमुनामयी की जय। भक्ति देवी तुलसी देवी की जय। अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय। श्री हरिनाम संकीर्तन की जय। ग्रंथराज श्रीमद् भागवतम की जय। इस्कॉन वर्तमान गुरु वृंद की जय। सामवेद भक्त वृंद की जय। गौर प्रेमानंदे हरि हरि बोल। All glories to assembled devotees, all glories to assembled devotees, all glories to assembled devotees, all glories to Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Today we are reading from Bhagavad Gita, 15th chapter, shloka 3rd and 4th. Na rūpam aśyesha tathopalabhyate. Na nānto na cādir na ca sampratiṣṭhā. Asvattham su-virūḍha-mūlam. asaṅga-śastreṇa dṛḍhena chittvā. tataḥ padaṁ tat parimārgitavyaṁ. yasmin gatā nivartanti bhūyaḥ. tam eva cādyaṁ puruṣaṁ prapadye. yataḥ pravṛttiḥ prasṛtā purāṇī. na rūpam aśyesha tathopalabhyate. nānto na cādir na ca sampratiṣṭhā. asvattham su-virūḍha-mūlam. asaṅga-śastreṇa dṛḍhena chittvā. tataḥ padaṁ tat parimārgitavyaṁ. yasmin gatā nivartanti bhūyaḥ. tam eva cādyaṁ puruṣaṁ prapadye. yataḥ pravṛttiḥ prasṛtā purāṇī. na rūpam aśyesha tathopalabhyate. na nānto na cādir na ca sampratiṣṭhā. asvattham su-virūḍha-mūlam. asaṅga-śastreṇa dṛḍhena chittvā. tataḥ padaṁ tat parimārgitavyaṁ. yasmin gatā nivartanti bhūyaḥ. tam eva cādyaṁ puruṣaṁ prapadye. yataḥ pravṛttiḥ prasṛtā purāṇī. Mataji's. Word to word meaning: na, not; rūpam, the form; asya, of this tree; iha, in this world; tataḥ, also; upalabhyate, can be perceived; na, never; antah, end; na, never; cha, also; adihi, beginning; na, never; cha, also; sampratiṣṭhā, the foundation; aśvattham, banyan tree; enaṁ, this; su-virūḍha, strongly; mūlam, rooted; asaṅga-śastreṇa, by the weapon of detachment; dṛḍhena, strong; chittvā, cutting; tataḥ, thereafter; padaṁ, situation; tathopalabhyate, that; parimārgitavyaṁ, has to be searched out; yasmin, where; gatā, going; na, never; nivartanti, they come back; bhūyaḥ, again; tam, to him; eva, certainly; cha, also; cādyaṁ, original; puruṣaṁ, the personality of Godhead; prapadye, surrender; yataḥ, from whom; pravṛttiḥ, the beginning; prasṛtā, extended; purāṇī, very old. Translation purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Translation: the real form of this tree cannot be perceived in this world. No one can understand where it ends, where it begins, or where its foundation is. But with determination, one must cut down this strongly rooted tree with the weapon of detachment. Thereafter, one must seek that place from which, having gone, one never returns, and there surrender to that Supreme Personality of Godhead, from whom everything began and from whom everything has extended since time immemorial. Purport. It is now clearly stated that the real form of this banyan tree cannot be understood in this material world. since the root is upwards and the extension of the real tree is at the other end. When entangled with material expansions of the tree, one cannot see how far the tree extends, nor can one see the beginning of this tree. Yet one has to find out the cause. I am the son of my father is the son of such and such person, etc. By searching in this way, one comes to Brahma, who is generated by the Garbhodakshaya Vishnu. Finally, in this way, when one reaches the Supreme Personality of Godhead, that is the way one reaches, that is the end of the research work. One has to search out that origin of this tree, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, through the association of persons who are in knowledge of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Then by understanding, one becomes gradually detached from this false reflection of reality, and by knowledge, one can cut off the connection and actually become situated in the real tree. The word asaṅga is very important in this connection because the attachment for sense enjoyment and lording it over the material nature is very strong. Therefore, one must learn detachment by discussion of the spiritual science based on authoritative scriptures, and one must hear from persons who are actually in knowledge. As a result of such discussion in association of devotees, one comes to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Then the first thing one must do is to surrender to Him. The description of that place hence, having gone, one never returns to this false reflected tree is given here. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, is the original root from whom everything has emanated. To gain the favor of the Personality of Godhead, one has to only surrender, and this is the result of performing devotional service by hearing and chanting, etc. He is the cause of the extension of the material world. This has already been explained by the Lord Himself. Aham sarvasya prabhava. I am the origin of everything. Therefore, to get out of the entanglement of this strong banyan tree of material life, one must surrender to Krishna. As soon as one surrenders onto Krishna, one becomes detached automatically from this material extension. Om ajnanatimirandasya jnananjana shalakaya chakshurunmilitam yena tasmai shri gurave namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Jayo Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Vanchakalpatarubhyasya Kripa Sindhubhya eva cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Welcome everyone. So today we are discussing chapter 15, the Yoga of the Supreme Person. Before I begin sharing my understanding of these verses, I want to seek your blessings so that I can speak for my purification, at the same time for the pleasure of Srila Prabhupada and assembled devotees. So when we see this chapter has 20 verses. First 5 verses describes the material and spiritual worlds. 6 to the 11 describes the transmigration of the soul. And 12 to the 15, how Krishna is the maintainer in this cosmic world. And 16 to the 20 is the summary of the Vedanta Sutra. So now we see chapter 14 has ended saying that Krishna, he states that how he is the base or the source of the Brahman. And he also explains how devotion to Krishna one can actually transcend the modes of material nature very easily and attains the nature of Brahma. And he also mentions how the attachment to Krishna is the key. When one develops that attachment, one automatically becomes detached from this material world. Now, in this chapter, in the beginning 5 verses, Krishna will be talking about the nature of the material and spiritual worlds. And he also gives us the solution how to break this attachment to the material world and what is the weapon that we can use. And Krishna says that the weapon that we have to use is detachment. but with determination. Asaṅga-śastreṇa dṛḍhena chittvā. So he's telling that one has to use the acts of detachment, but with a very strong determination. We will see why Krishna is mentioning about determination. Now, Krishna describes the material world and then the spiritual world, so that anyone can understand how the material world is a perverted reflection of the spiritual world, and what is the real destination of the living entity. And next, Krishna also says that how the living entities are eternal fragmental parts of him, and how they are undergoing this transmigration of the bodies. And above all, how he is the maintainer of the world, and finally he declares himself as the puruṣaṁ, how he is the Bhagavan, and why someone has to come. And then he also mentions the essence of the Vedas. Essence of the Vedas is just by knowing Krishna, one knows everything. Now, here Krishna is telling that the real form of this tree cannot be perceived in this world. Why is it that so? Because this is a reflection of the spiritual world. The real tree cannot be perceived because whatever we are perceiving here is a reflection of that real tree. So what are some of the symptoms or characteristics of this reflection? Why is that the material world not as same as the spiritual world? First of all, it's backwards. So top becomes bottom, bottom becomes top. Right becomes left, and left becomes right. So the spiritual world is reflected, and then the material world is mirror image. So it's not the same. And it is perverted. That means it is distorted in its shape. It's not in its right shape. So which also means that it is not the replica of the original. Then it is in flux. It's always disturbing. You know how Prabhupada gives the example of understanding the spiritual and material world. He says that someone sees there is a tree on the banks of a river, and they see the reflection of the tree in the water, and then they understand that there is a tree on the bank of the river. So, but the waves are always coming, right, in the river. So the image is always getting disturbed. So similarly in the material world, everything is disturbed. It is not stationary. It's always disturbed, in flux. And also the reflection gets destroyed whenever the sun goes down. When do you see reflection? When do you see any reflections? Only when there is sun. But whenever there is no sun, you cannot see the reflection. But the material world, the spiritual world is not that. It's always luminous. It's always brilliant, and it's always self-effulgent. And this chapter also is an example of guhyatam. It's the greatest secret. When Krishna says, I am disclosing the greatest secret, this is how yesterday His Holiness Bhakti Dheera Damodar Maharaj was explaining how this material world cannot be perceived with the root upwards and the branches downwards. But one can perceive with the help of the knowledge. Only when someone is in knowledge, they can perceive that how this material world is a reflection, right? Otherwise, the person who is in ignorance, they cannot understand this. And Maharaj also continued saying how the living entity is attracted to different sense objects, and with the attachment to those sense objects, one is trying to derive some happiness out of it. That means they're looking for happiness in this material world through the medium of sense objects, right? So if someone drinks poison, wish, right? When someone drinks poison, what happens? The body gets destroyed. But the problem with this material world is one is constantly in touch with the sense objects, vishayi, the sense objects. And what is happening to the living entity? It's not losing the body one time, two times, but it's losing the body many, many times. And it is continuing in that cycle continuously. And this vishayi is becoming the driving force in the material world. And that's why this place is not right place for the living entity to be here. And according to Vishnu Puran, it is also said that the material energy is full of avidya. It's nescient. It doesn't tell us who we are and what is our real source of happiness and where we belong. It is all covered. It's just like we are in the cloud. So when someone is in the cloud, you cannot see anything. So that's what is happening in this material world. But then Krishna comes, his representatives comes, and they bring the Shastra. And what are they doing? They're removing this cloud and they're giving this knowledge. And just by understanding this knowledge and cultivating this knowledge, one is able to transcend this material world. Now, let's take an example to understand it better. Let's say there are materialists or people who are outside this bhakti circle, who are not practicing bhakti. So what is happening to them? They're working very hard and they're putting all this effort to gain so many things. But their foundation is very shaky. They don't understand that everything will be taken away at the time of death. Age, health, wealth, beauty, prestige, social status, the career, and any kind of achievements they make, it's all taken away. It's just like someone may be saying that, the treadmill? On the treadmill, someone is walking 10 kilometers. So someone may be saying that, oh, I achieved, I ran for 10K. Okay, you ran for 10K, but where did you go? You're just there. You didn't go anywhere, you're just on the treadmill. This is the problem of the material world. But a person who is practicing Krishna consciousness, who is practicing bhakti, although externally we are same as the materialistic people, but our foundation is solid. Because the amount of rounds we chant is not taken away. The amount of bhakti we do in this lifetime is not taken away. We will also leave our bodies, we will also leave our social assets, we will also leave our many other things. But our bhakti is not destroyed. Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 11 explains that a devotee, even when they're blindfolded, they're running. When someone is blindfolded, they're running, there is always a chance that they will fall down. But Krishna says to Uddhava, saying that someone is blindfolded, they're running, and they're a devotee, they will never fall down. Why they don't fall down? Because Krishna is protecting their bhakti. Krishna says, even a small endeavor made in this path of bhakti, it is protected. Right? Like, and Prabhupada gives another very famous example of depositing in the wrong bank account. A person is working for 40 years and every month he goes to the bank and he deposits the money. And after 40 years he went to withdraw the money and then he realizes all the 40 years he was depositing in the wrong bank account. So we should not be doing that. We should be depositing in the right bank account. So, and material world is designed in such a way, yesterday as Maharaj was emphasizing on this point, how this material world is designed in such a way that struggle is an integral part of it. Everyone struggles. There is suffering. Suffering is there. And why Krishna, who is so merciful, why does he put suffering into this world? Because it's a reminder for us to exit. Whenever there is pain, what do we try to do? We try to find a remedy to get relief from that pain. But if we don't find the relief for the pain, then what is the use? So Prabhupada also explains in Easy Journey to Other Planets book that, how suffering without knowledge and without remedy is animal consciousness. So having human consciousness, one has to look for remedy for the suffering. Now here, Krishna is also explaining that asyeha enaṁ su-virūḍha-mūlam. So he's saying that you uproot this banyan tree. But you have to understand the nature of this banyan tree. How do you uproot this banyan tree? First of all, you understand it's a very strongly rooted banyan tree. And also, the banyan tree produces lot of fruits. And each fruit has lot of seeds. That means it's ever growing. It looks like it's imperishable, but it's perishable. So one has to come to know one has to come to the platform of knowledge, understanding the root, understanding this banyan tree. And then, because if someone doesn't understand how strong is the banyan tree rooted, how does someone know how to cut it? Because Krishna is saying is asaṅga-śastreṇa dṛḍhena. Before that, he was telling that this banyan tree is very strongly rooted. Now, he is giving a clue again. First of all, it's strongly rooted. Second, you have to address at the root, not anywhere else. Don't just cut off the branches. Don't just remove the twigs or the leaves or the fruits, but cut the roots. But one has to be very determined, because this banyan tree is very, very vast, very big. But it is possible. It is very much possible by becoming attached to Krishna. Krishna says, Sukadeva Goswami says that Vasudeva Bhagavati Bhakti Yoge Vasudeva Bhagavati Bhakti Yoga Prayojita Janeta Asu Vairagyam Jnanicha Yad Ahitukyam. Just by rendering devotional service to Krishna, one immediately acquires causeless knowledge and detachment from this world. So someone need not to strive to have developed detachment. But just by becoming attached to Krishna, this knowledge, how do you become attached to Krishna? By the help of knowledge, right? Who is Krishna? What is our constitutional position? How are we entrapped in this material world? What is this material world all of? And then automatically understanding these things, and by practicing bhakti, one becomes detached. So detachment is a byproduct of bhakti. So bhakti cult means realization of the positive form. It's not about negation alone. It's not about just becoming inert. Many people think that, detachment means we have to refrain from everything. We should not be engaging in any activity. But what are our acharyas saying? Use everything in service of Krishna, yukta vairagya. The employment of all our attachments, but having Krishna in the center. And then Prabhupada is also giving an example. How do we also become attached? By doing some research work. So he's saying that we have to become scientific. We have to do some research. Now, first of all, what is he saying? Okay, I am the son of my father, and my father is the son of someone else, and he is the son of someone else. And then you trace back. You trace back to such a point where you will find that, okay, Brahmaji is there. And above Brahma is Garbhodakshaya Vishnu. And above Garbhodakshaya Vishnu is the Mahavishnu. And above Mahavishnu is the Chaturvyuha. And above Chaturvyuha is Krishna, Sarva Karana Karanam. Then that's where you stop the research work. Even in the Chatushlok, when Krishna was explaining to Brahma, he gave the entire Bhagavatam in 4 seed verses. And in one of the verses, Krishna also explains, saying that, one has to research to the point until they come to me. So that is the perfection of a research work. And then, by doing so, we get the knowledge about Krishna, then we get attached to Krishna, and by that attachment, we automatically get detached from this material world. So our eternal life is with Krishna. So Krishna is saying that everything belongs to me. This material world, the spiritual world, your jivas, you belong to me. Everything belongs to me. And I have a super excellent abode, which is the Goloka Vrindavan and the Vaikuntha planets. And when someone goes there, they don't desire to come back. Why someone doesn't want to desire to come back? Anyone? Why if someone goes to the spiritual world, they don't want to come back here? Yes, because we are in knowledge. And when someone is in knowledge, they know they have options. And they have intelligent options. You know, three-fourth of the Purusha Sukta explains that the entire, creation, three-fourth is the spiritual world. And only one-fourth is the material world. That means three-fourth, the living entities in the three-fourth planetary system, like the spiritual world, they're very intelligent. They don't want to come to material worlds. Now, similar intelligence is given to us. How? By the help of Krishna. Krishna comes and he gives Bhagavad Gita. He sends his representatives and he gives authoritative sources, Bhagavatam, Chaitanya Charitamrita. And then he sends his representatives in the form of Guru and Vaishnavas. And they all educate us. And that's what Prabhupada is saying, that we have to take association. And by taking this association, one understands how Krishna consciousness is a scientific process that we can actually go into the spiritual world. And this is not something whimsical or sentimental or imaginary or fanatical. So the purpose of developed human consciousness is to understand how this nature works. And there is also consciousness in the birds. There is also consciousness in animals. There is also consciousness in many lower living entities. But this is not the same as the developed human consciousness. So chanting Hare Krishna Mahamantra is very easy thing. You know, the time spent that we do on chanting cannot be taken away by anyone. It is eternally deposited in our accounts. And then Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, Nitya Siddha Krishna Prema Sadhya Kabunoi Shravanadi Suddha Chitte Khare Udai. So what is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says? This love of Godhead is eternally in the hearts of all the living entities. But by Shravanadi, just by hearing and chanting, and Prabhupada here is mentioning as well, just by performing devotional service, by hearing and chanting, one is awakening this devotional service. But who gives this mercy? This is the mercy of the Guru and the Vaishnavas. This is the mercy that is coming in the form of, in the Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam. And when we see these things in the light of the knowledge, we are no more in the clouds. So our ignorance will be removed, and then because of this knowledge, we choose better. This morning I had a very pleasant experience. There was one person, I met him a year ago. I don't even remember this person. He came to me and he said that, oh, I remember you, your name is this. And you know, last year you gave me a bunch of books. And then I live in Singapore. I took books all the way back to Singapore. I read these books. And then I found the center. I went to the center. I started associating with devotees. And I'm chanting 16 rounds now. I was like, wow. You know, I didn't even know that I helped someone. So this book distribution, we think that, you know, we are just selling the books. But it's changing someone's life. If not me, there are hundreds of book distributors out there. But today I got to see a miracle how Prabhupada books are changing someone's life. Right? It's a witness. I don't even remember this person. I don't even remember what I have done to this person. But I was just an instrument. But he was sincere, and the super soul, the flame, the little fiery flame, he fanned it, and then he became such a sincere devotee. And seeing him, I was thinking that I wish I am so sincere like him. I wasn't. So it really shows that how devotional service works is very inconceivable. But when we practice devotional service, pratyaksha avagamana, there will be a direct experience. Then we want to do more. But for that we need determination. And that determination will take us to see many more miracles. So also now as the Bhadra Purnima is coming, there is a Bhadra Purnima campaign is happening, where we are encouraging all the devotees and the visitors coming to the temple to take a Bhagavatam set or to sponsor a Bhagavatam set. Help yourself with the Bhagavatam sets, because this knowledge is transporting us to another world. It is not making us to stay in this material, miserable world, which is temporary. And if you already have a Bhagavatam set, try to sponsor for a Bhagavatam set. And sponsored Bhagavatam sets, the BBT is running a library party. So what they are doing, they're going to different schools and colleges and they're placing these sponsored Bhagavatam sets. And we don't know how this could be creating miracles in people's life. Tadvarg visargo janathaga viplava yasmin shloka abadvatyati. Sukadeva Goswami is saying that, these words, these letters in these scriptures are going to create a revolution in the hearts of the misdirected civilization. It's going to change us from ignorance to knowledge. And with the help of that knowledge, we become transformed into a better individuals, a better devotees. And then our path back to Godhead is getting confirmed, right? We are moving from waiting list to getting confirmed, on our journey back to Godhead. So Prabhupada is also saying that, like if someone surrenders to Krishna, he becomes detached automatically because his foundation is very strong. Any one of you have ever, brought down a tree, like with the axe? It's very tough job. It's very tough job. You need to have a very solid foundation. Unless you have a strong foundation, you cannot employ the axe and break down this tree. And our foundation is bhakti. Then we should become Krishna conscious. We should aspire to become Krishna conscious more and more. And then we should help others as much as we can. We can just become instruments. Krishna also says to Arjuna, right? Just become my instrument. The death of Drona, Karna, Bhishma, everything is already decided. You don't need to do anything. You just be there. Similarly, we just need to be an instrument, in the Prabhupada's mission and try our level best. Every activity that we do in devotional service is going to give out a message to people that how happy is the life of bhakti and how miserable is the temporary material life, and why we have to take up to bhakti. So I end here. Any questions or comments or corrections would be welcomed. Please forgive me for my shortcomings. Any questions or... Yes, Prabhu. Yes. First of all, we are complete, because Prabhupada gives many examples. The example of gold. Small particle of gold and the golden bangle. The gold, qualitatively, the gold is the same. Quantitatively, we are different from Krishna. First of all, we are very minute. So, qualitatively, we are same as Krishna. So that because we are eternal part and parcel of Krishna, we are always complete. And devotional service, of course, we are very self-oriented, that we want to do, we are the center of our lives, right? And to change to Krishna-oriented, it takes a lot of guidance and practical application of this knowledge. So, like licking the bottle of the honey, you would never know how sweet it is. We have to open it and taste it. So similarly, can we come to the pure stage of devotional service? Yes, we can, but we have to engage in service first. Every little thing that you do is cleaning our hearts. Cheto-darpana-marjanam. You're chanting, you are sweeping the floor, you're distributing a book, you're cooking some prasad, or you're cooking some bhoga for the Lord, you're making garlands. Everything is cleaning our hearts. Because we are coming out of our barriers, right? Our barriers, and we are extending our energy, time, words, everything for Krishna. So that is a beginner step. So in the beginning, we may not see so much change, but still you will see that there is some cleansing process happening. That's why Prabhupada, when Prabhupada translated it, he didn't translate as devotion, but he translated bhakti as devotional service. That means we have to engage in activity. By engaging in activity, our hearts get cleansed, and then we can go deeper. Yeah, that's my understanding. Sorry, Prabhu? Please, Prabhu.
Arjuna asked to Krishna that mind is very flickering and we can't control it. The Lord said, it is true, but by practice of devotional service and detachment, you can control the mind.
Thank you, Prabhu. Yes, by practice, by constant practice and detachment. Yes. So we can close here. Thank you so much. Vanchakalpatarubhyasya kripa sindhubhyevacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo.